Pinkerton Audiobooks presents The Sunken Ship, written and read by Pinkerton. Years of plundering around the South Pacific had exposed Michael Rogers to many strange tales he found too wild to believe, and it was a good thing for him that he hadn't believed, for he had amassed a lot of wealth from ignoring such stories. Cursed mines, treasures protected by tribal gods, all of which had turned out to be no more than local legend and superstition. This would likewise be the case with the old pirate ship he was preparing to dive for. The chiefs of the local native tribe had been horrified when they had heard of his plans, and warned him that to enter those waters would be to seal his fate, for those waters were the sacred home of their god. Michael had scoffed at their warnings. He knew that the ship had gone down in those waters carrying a great treasure. The sound of native drums on the beach drew his attention as he stood on the deck of his yacht and slid the oxygen tank onto his back. Shaking his head, he slipped into the waters and began to descend. Brightly colored mahi-mahi scurried in front of him as he sank into the depths of the water, which changed from blue to green and finally to gray-green as it grew colder and colder around him. After several minutes, Michael reached the ocean floor, squinting through the semi-darkness as he began to look for the sunken hulk. Finally, the wavering silhouette of the pirate vessel's battered hull came into view. From it rose the barnacled main mast, from which ancient, tattered sails waved in the current of the gray-green gloom. As he swam closer, Michael noticed that the hull appeared to be in much better condition than something nearly 360 years on the ocean floor should be. Michael made his way to the main deck and headed for the stairway that led to the cabins below. Down those seaweed and slime-covered stairs he made his way. Once he reached the bottom step, he began his search for the captain's cabin. Against the current, he swam his way to the door and reached out, pushing it open. For a moment, he didn't believe his eyes, for his diving light had struck something when first he entered. He closed his eyes and shook his head in disbelief. When he again opened them, he gasped deeply at the oxygen, for the thing was still there, looking at him with black, sunken, hollow eyes. His limbs tensed up and fear paralyzed him as the thing began slowly toward him. Its huge, outstretched hands were webbed, and its dark green body was covered with coarse scales. Michael somehow managed to turn, and struggled frantically to escape, but felt a strong tug as his oxygen line was pulled loose from the tank on his back. A second later, his throat was seized by those giant webbed hands. Shuddering amongst a mass of tangled sheets, Michael awoke in an icy sweat. His entire body was saturated. For several minutes he lay unmoving, still gasping in terror and almost tasting the salty ocean water that had flooded his lungs in the dream mere moments before. Eventually, he found the strength to get up and go take a shower. As he stood in front of the dresser of the hotel room, reaching to pull open one of the drawers, he realized that his fists were clenched tight, and from them trailed long strands of seaweed. He rushed to the mirror and saw that his hair and clothes were covered with the green slime of the watery ocean depths, and there were red marks on his throat, as if from the grip of huge fingers. "Perhaps it isn't such a good idea to dive to that old pirate ship," he said almost inaudibly as he stared at his reflection in bewilderment. The End. The Sunken Ship, written and read by Pinkerton.
Please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified when we post new videos.